Tough stories to follow. They're heartwarming and nice stories, but I'm going to take you into a bar room because in a previous career, I worked on the waterfront, and you can imagine all the character types that you've seen in the movies and on TV are all true, and they're toned down in the movies so that you can take them. But anyway, as part of this career, I find myself in Cozumel, Mexico. Now, if anybody's ever been to Cozumel, you think of this big cruise ship stop, scuba diving, snorkeling, all that kind of stuff. Well, I was there on business, and I'm doing business with this Mexican guy, and let's just call him Jose because that'll keep the names easy. And I'm there for a couple of days, and I'm introduced to Latino machismo, which is a new concept for a gringo like myself, because while we're working on the waterfront, we're very careful about making insults to people we don't know, because a fight obviously quickly breaks out and can lead to your own demise. So, but this guy, by the way, you know, Mexican people are, shall we say, a little shorter in stature than some gringos. And I'm not exactly a tall guy myself, but everybody's about, you know, maybe 5'2". So we're walking around, and this guy's really throwing his weight around type of thing. And I'm just trying to do business here. It's going to be my first international deal. I'm really excited. And he says to me, okay, tonight we're going drinking. And I'm like, oh, I can handle this because I have a lot of practice drinking. And he says, by the way, we're going to drink whiskey too. I said, oh, I love to drink Jack Daniels, Jim Beam. He says, oh, yeah, me too. I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is going to go great. Get this guy drunk. We're going to make this deal. Everything's going to be fine. So we go into this bar. Now, I'm used to dive, waterfront type bars, okay? If it has a door on it, I usually don't go in, you know, because you can get thrown out through the door. So, oh man, this is great. We go into this dive bar, and I immediately recognize all the characters, okay? There's the, shall we say, you know, less than attractive women there. Teeth are optional. There's the big guys, the small guys, the tough guys, the weak guys. Everybody's ready for a fight at any minute, but everybody at the moment is having a good time. So we sit down at this table, and our table is positioned in a corner because Jose is like the most important guy in the room, or so he thinks. So he says, you sit over there against the wall. Oh, okay, I'll sit against the wall. And he's sitting here. And we're talking, and on the other side of the room is a table of very non-Latino looking guys. I mean, these guys are all bigger than 6'5". They're about 3 people wide, okay? It's like suddenly maybe the front line from the Philadelphia Eagles arrived at the bar. And I keep looking over, it's very strange. And then a couple of very non-Latino women come in and sit down with these guys. And boy, Jose turns around and takes his time looking over these women. Very provocative and, you know, way. And I kind of nudged him, and I speak some Spanish, and I said, Jose, you know, maybe those guys look pretty big. I said, I don't know if you want to be looking at their women that way. This is my town, this is my bar, I'm not afraid of nothing. I'm thinking to myself, okay, you might not be afraid of anything, but I'm getting a little queasy at this point, right? And we had been drinking, so we had our whiskey muscles on, but I was still sober enough to be somewhat frightened, okay? But we start talking business. And every once in a while, Jose just looks over at these women over. He looks over to me and he starts gesturing like, do not do that. Okay, just stop. What, are you afraid? I said, yes. Okay, so not too long goes by. It's maybe 45 minutes or so, and the whiskey's bottle is descending in altitude. Everything's going great, and Jose is getting ready to sign this deal. I'm thinking, oh man, this is great. And suddenly, you know how you ever look across a crowd, maybe at a wedding or something, and it sort of starts to open up? People just start to suddenly move away. And I noticed that the crowd is starting to part, you know? And this is not the Red Sea. This is like the ugly sea of people. And here comes these huge guys, and one in particular, okay? And this is about to be a scene out of Star Wars, okay? This is like the Star Wars bar there in the first one, okay? And the crowd opens up, and here comes this huge guy. And I'm still sitting against the wall. I have nowhere to go. And Jose, remember, he's the toughest, smartest guy in the room, and the most important too. All he does is shift his seat back. Just shifts his seat back, and here comes this huge dude, the panic switch is just thrown at this moment, right? I'm paralyzed, I'm looking up at this guy. He reaches down and picks me up like a little kid. You know, you pick up a little kid underneath the arms. By the way, I was 35 pounds lighter then. So he picks me up like a little kid and starts screaming at me like Chewbacca, okay? And by the way, this guy has a lot of hair. And he's just screaming at me in this huge voice and everything in his language I've never heard before. I don't know what he said. It's not Spanish. It's not English. I don't know what this is. I had German in junior high school. It's not German. He's yelling and screaming. And all of a sudden, the guys working at the bar, remember, all these like little 5-foot tall guys come over, and they're like jumping up on his arms, like trying to stop him. And I'm dangling. My legs are dangling like this. And the guy just, boom, drops me back down the seat. Seat collapses. I'm laying on the floor. And Jose is standing, toughest, smartest guy in the room, is standing there. So, my friend, he says, my friend, you have to get up and you have to do something. I'm laying on the floor. I'm not doing anything, okay? Except running out of this joint. That's why I remember, you always go into a bar where there's no door there. So, I get up and these guys' buddies pull him back. And as it turned out, these guys were from Norway or Sweden, one of these Scandinavian countries. They worked on one of the cruise ships who had called there, because some days in Cozumel you have as many as 5 cruise ships call. And they were part of the engineering department, but they were these huge Norse Viking-looking guys, and they had some of their lady friends who were also working on the ship at the time, thought that we were staring at their women, wanted to just make a point, and I was glad that they only made the point to that extent. So I go and say to Jose, I'm out of here. So I go over, pay the bartender, and I leave, and these guys are all pointing and laughing and everything. We get outside, and Jose says to me, my friend, where are you going? He says, I'm going back to the hotel. I'm going to the airport before these guys follow me. He says, oh, you're a little sissy. In English, he says this to me. I said, no, Jose, I'm going to go home alive. Everything's going to be okay. And so I made it out of there with my life, and the lesson is, don't be looking at some other guy's lady on the other side of the bar, because you throw the panic switch, you might not get out with your life. That's my story.